He's a balloon twister, he's a unicyclist, he's a juggler. He's Cody Williams. Welcome to the Kids Entertainer podcast, Cody.
Hello.
Hey, and whereabouts are you today?
Today I'm at Bling Bling Jam in Las Vegas. It's a balloon convention held on by Steve Klein every July, and I stepped outside for a few minutes so I can talk to you guys.
Yeah, and thank you so much. So, Bling Bling Jam, what kind of thing would someone do at Bling Bling Jam?
So Bling Bling Jam is pretty much a balloon, a little bit of magic, but mostly a balloon convention, and they try to focus more on the jamming aspect where artists get together, they skill share, and they have classes, but it's just one of those things where they want to focus less on like the kind of class feel or the competition feel where your fellow balloon artists hide for 3 days in a hotel room and you never see them, as where everyone instead is in a room together sharing and hanging out. It's a really big social event also.
Oh, wow, that sounds really cool. I know what you mean with the hanging out in the jam rooms compared to, hiding away in the rooms getting ready for competition pieces. It must have a pretty good feel to it.
It's a lot better. I mean, I can remember Twist and Shout one year. I didn't see one of my friends for 3 solid days because he wanted to build a life-size or TIE fighter or 1/16 scale TIE fighter. Versus here, everyone's just huge building one spot. And it's really nice that you actually get to see your friends the whole time and have a vacation while you're hanging out with people that are into what you're into.
Oh, yeah, totally. And is there any kind of running theme going on with this jam?
Bling Bling Jam, they hold it in the old section of Las Vegas. It's down by Fremont Street. And Steve Klein calls it Bling Bling because he wants to capture the essence of the nostalgic vintage Las Vegas, where everything's just big diamonds blinging Elvis style. And you'll almost always see one or two life-size Elvises built at this convention.
Oh, wow. Well, it'll be cool to see some pictures. Maybe I'll have to have a look if any pictures come up later on.
Yeah, you can go to, I think, blingblingjam.com, I believe is his website.
Impressive. I'll have to check it out. So, Cody, I don't know if you'd mind if we go away a little bit to your YouTube channel. You've got quite a
Of
few
course.
videos out there that you put up to do with a lot of balloon twisting, but also unicycling. Can you tell us how that kind of came about for you?
The YouTube channel, it started like, honestly, my screen name, a lot of people know it is unicaw89, and that really started with the YouTube channel because I didn't know a name for it. I wanted to upload unicycle videos first. And unicaw comes from uni for unicycling, and my initials are CAW. So I'm ironically giving out a lot of myself in just a short screen name. So unicaw was and also born in '89, hence the numbers, because I had to have some. So unicaw89 was just my unicyclist stage, screen name for online, and I started uploading some videos because I started unicycling first. Before balloons, for anything else, I was originally a unicyclist. I've been doing that since I was 11 because I broke my arm and I couldn't ride a bicycle. My brother gave me a unicycle as a joke, saying, "Here you go, no handlebars." And I took him up on it. And so you see the family photo album, my cast gets smaller, my unicycle gets bigger. So got into that first, and then later, I later taught my friend Ryan Farewell how to ride a unicycle, and his father is Rick Farewell, and he's a pretty famous balloon artist and magician. And he kind of said, if you teach my son unicycling, I will teach you balloons, and you can work for me. And I said no, because as a unicyclist, I didn't like being called a clown, didn't like carnivals. I honestly didn't even like circus. Now I'm obsessed with it. But when I was younger, at 16, 17, I did extreme unicycling, and I wanted to make sure I was not a clown. I was, an athlete in my own mind. And so it took a while for me to kind of bridge that gap. But I eventually agreed to doing it for them for just a couple months for a part-time job, and had a knack for it. And I had great teachers, and I just really stuck with it. And so later I started going to all the balloon conventions, and I kind of learned just insanely fast because you go to a convention with 100 artists who just have doing this for a career for a long time. I started realizing how lucky I was. I wanted, Skillshare, and I wanted to try and promote our art form, and I wanted balloon art to be taken more seriously and less balloon dog and sword, and I wanted the entire kind of community to increase their, I guess, game, if you will. So I wanted to share designs and give it, like balloon artist tutorials for other balloon artists so they can kind of make cooler designs in restaurants. And so when you're in a restaurant, you go to a family and say, hey, can I make you a balloon? They're not going to think, oh, you do swords and dogs. No, thank you. They'll see that you're making sharks and Spider-Man and things like that, and they really want you to make something for them. So it was a big push on YouTube to try and help out the community and skill share with other artists that couldn't make it to jams.
And when you began, were there many people doing similar things on YouTube?
When I very first started, Floyd was on there, Michael Floyd with Balloon-Animals, and he was doing kind of he had this, he was doing like numbered series of it, and he was doing the pretty simple, swords and flowers. Jonathan Fudge, I think, had a couple of videos at the time, but when I first started doing it, it was pretty hard to find good tutorials online. If you wanted to find a good tutorial, it was pretty tricky. Now you've got 20, 30 artists that are putting out videos like me, and it's easy to find the newest Disney character. When I first started, it was a very select handful.
I actually remember a few years ago when I was trying to upskill going on YouTube, and there weren't as many as there are now. And I certainly did watch a lot of your videos, so maybe it's a good time for me to say thank you. Thank you for helping me upskill. And I know a lot of my friends and
Well, you're
team.
welcome. Thank you for watching them.
Yeah, well, cool. It's helping us make money. And as you said, you wanted to help people pick up their game. Well, I can certainly say someone from the other side of the world has already experienced that from your teaching. So thanks, Cody. But can I take a little step back? You said something about you did extreme unicycling. Is that right? Can you tell me a bit more about what exactly that is?
So think of a skateboard, think of a BMX bike, and think of a trials bike. All those can be done on a unicycle. I first started learning to unicycle, like I said, because I had a broken arm and I couldn't ride a bike, so I was just riding around my block. And I moved out to the desert, to the mountains, and I had all these trails for off-roading for mountain bikers. And I saw this video of a unicyclist on ESPN named Chris Holm, and he was riding these trails on his unicycle. I was like, hey, I should try this. So I got into mountain unicycling. And so since then, I've done North Shore, Lake Tahoe. I've done lots of trails that like mountain bikers love to go do. I do my unicycle. From there, I went into doing street, which is like at a skate park, and I'll grind handrails, things like that on a unicycle and drop in half pipes. And from there, I progressed to trials, which is where you essentially try to clear really, really difficult obstacles while not falling off the unicycle, like
Oh,
jumping on rocks and logs.
wow. I'm thinking that a unicycle should only ever be ridden on a very flat ground with nothing around you in sight because to me it's just so dangerous and so difficult. This is actually a little bit mind-boggling to think that someone's going in like skate parks and doing tricks and that. Have you had any accidents or yeah, any close calls?
It's kind of ironic that I learned unicycling because I had an injury, and now I've had many since. Because riding in a straight line, like you mentioned, like in a basketball court or in a street, unicycling has a top speed of about 8 miles an hour if you have a traditional size. So you're never going too fast, and you're in good control. When you fall, you typically just step off. So unicycling is extremely safe until you start doing stunts on them. Since I started going to skate parks and doing trails, I've I've broken a few things. The ER used to know me by my first name, and my mother got gray hair a little prematurely from me. But yeah, it was funny. There's a TV show called Magnificent Obsessions. They went out and filmed a bunch of unicyclists in Moab, Utah, and they ended up doing an interview with me. And they put a CGI little skeleton next to me. And during the interview, they're putting red skeletons every bone I mentioned that I broke. By the end of the interview, there was just these red X's all over the CGI skeleton next to me. It was
Oh, wow.
comical.
So now it's not like what have you injured, it's more like what haven't you injured. Might be a shorter
I still can't
list.
think of anything on that list either.
Oh no. Wow. All right, kids, still do unicycling. It's all good. So I'm still just trying to fathom what you do on a unicycle. It's just I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, when I first got into extreme unicycling, it was like a lot like the balloon community. At the same time, it was still kind of on the uprise. So there was very few unicyclists that did extreme unicycling, and I go to conventions like balloon conventions, and you have the exact same kind of clientele, kind of guests going to these conventions. And so it's at the same time that community was rising when I was in it, same as balloon was rising when I entered this one. And so it's still very rare. And I don't know, back then we got hurt because we didn't quite know the right way of doing it yet. So no one really knew how to grind a handrail on a unicycle properly, and so we're trying to figure it out, and the only way is to commit and try. Nowadays, riders get injured a lot less because they usually have someone to watch and learn from.
I guess it's that whole learning the hard way thing. If you learn by yourself, it will take longer, and yeah, you'll get it. But then if you have someone to teach you, then you can just kind of skip that whole learning curve thing. But someone's got to do it first,
Yeah,
right?
there's riders that I've seen now that ride for 2 years, and they ride circles around me. They're so amazing. And I've been riding for 16 years, and they're just better than me because they're able to go on YouTube and watch instructional videos by Sean Johannesson and myself, and they can just learn unicycling that way. And they learn so much faster. You go into conventions, like someone teaches them the technique to the trick, not just jump off, try to spin the unicycle, and pray you land on the pedals.
And for this unicycling thing, is this like a hobby, something you do for enjoyment, or are you able to, get work entertaining as a unicyclist as well?
I'm actually doing a show unicycling tomorrow in LA. So I mean, unicycling it's a little more rare to get booked for performances, but when you do, I probably enjoy them more than any other medium of entertainment. But I first got into it, like I said, from broken arm. It was all hobby oriented, and it was just because I couldn't ride my mountain bike. And then from there, it led into my first job. I used to work for a theme park in Valencia, California, called Six Flags. And I unicycled for them for a year or two, and I would ride around the park doing tricks on the unicycle and telling directions. And when I was 16. My very first job was $12.75 an hour to go play in a park on a unicycle.
When you're riding the unicycle, I'm just trying to kind of make this make sense to me as an entertainer. Say I would, as a balloon artist, go and to do a good job, I might, make the kids smile. I make them a really cool balloon animal, but then it's more than just making the balloon animal. As I'm sure it's more than just riding a unicycle. How do you be a good entertainer as a unicyclist?
That one took a while to figure out, but I mean, most performers have several mediums they perform with. Like lots of balloon artists are magicians, and so they have some pattern they've created, and a lot of it's interchangeable. So I'm able to interact with an audience pretty well on a unicycle the same way a stilt walker would, or the same way a juggler would. It's where you kind of engage them, where you're doing tricks, and you're not just riding it. With a unicycle, it's riding it alone is pretty impressive, and it's a conversation piece they want to see and talk about. But when you stop and you start to idle and start hopping in circles while talking to them, they start getting more and more interactive and engaged. And then we start doing tricks and you do patter. Like one of my favorite tricks to do is I tell kids that whenever they're in a school zone, they have to get off and walk. And I'll start doing a trick called a wheel walk, where you put your feet on the wheel itself and you walk along the wheel. And tell them like this is not what they have in mind. But so you have patter and tricks you have to work on too. But so I'm more of an ambient performer with unicycle, where I can go and interact with audience, versus stage shows are never my favorite because, well, usually either I can't talk or it has to be choreographed. I don't like either of those things much.
So what kind of show are you doing at the moment?
So tomorrow I'm doing a show that's wandering entertainment, and I'll be riding a giraffe with fire wicks in the wheel. So I'll be doing fire unicycling, while juggling fire.
Oh, wow. And when you say giraffe, do you mean like a really tall unicycle?
Yeah, the giraffe unicycles range anywhere from 4 feet to 7 feet. Well, most commonly, you can still get them up to 14 feet, and I think the world record is 20-something. Don't quote me because I'm probably wrong at this point.
Okay.
But they vary, depend on who built it for you. Typically, when I perform on a 5-footer, because 5-footers are still pretty easy to mount from the ground, and you're still up there, and it's pretty entertaining. But if I'm doing like 360s and tricks downstairs, I'll be riding a traditional unicycle.
Awesome. Sounds really cool. This is a whole new world of unicycling's kind of opening up to me.
Yeah, so there's ambience in their shows, and then when I do shows in like our circus, it's going to be choreographed, where there's another unicyclist, and there's like a storyline to our what we're doing. So I mean, it just really depends on what you're doing it for, but as long as you're a decent unicyclist, you can adapt to both scenarios.
It's really interesting how people come to pick up these, things that end up becoming what you do with your life. Like when you broke your arms, that turned into you riding a unicycle, that turned into you then learning balloons. It's just, I always find it really interesting, people's stories, how they came to be. Had you ever considered taking a different pathway, like a different career, or had that ever come up for
Well,
you?
the irony is I was planning on that. My original plan was to follow my grandfather, my father, my brother, their footsteps. They were all in the sheriff's academy. So my plan was actually to be a sheriff originally. And I got into performing because I was too young to get into the academy, and I needed some kind of part-time job. And my friend Ryan, his dad Rick, taught me balloons in exchange for the unicycling skill, just so I'd have just some part-time job to get me to pay rent until I can go to the academy. I ended up really enjoying it and realizing I can either serve my community by entertaining them, or I can serve my community protecting them. Well, there's enough people doing that. How about joining the side where you're entertaining them instead?
Yeah, and you get a lot more claps,
the
laughs,
original,
and smiles that way too, I reckon.
you're more famous, less infamous,
Well, yeah, exactly. Both have very important roles, of course. Just jumping over again to YouTube, I'm really interested to know a little bit behind the scenes of what you do. We all see, the awesome finished product of your videos, including sometimes random video clips at the start of your videos. Is there any reason for the strange video clips? I must say, if you haven't seen Cody's videos, he does a great...
completely is.
Yeah, okay, please do share.
So that one's more of a combination of my ADHD and trying to get people to watch it for more than 5 seconds. So if I have the time and I have the memory for it, the usual format I try to follow is it opens up with a 5-second clip of the balloon of what you're making. That way you don't have to fast forward to the end. You can just watch a little bit of it to see what it is. Because I hate when learning a new design, I have to fast forward to find out what it is and then rewind and then watch it. So you have the first clip of what it's going to be, and then I have a between 5 to 15-second goofy clip, and that's just something that's kind of like an Easter egg in a way, where you see what you're going to make, and then some random funny thing to try and make the video more entertaining. It's usually either a unicycle performance or just a cat thing. It just depends on what it is. And so it'll go, a goofy video, and then there'll be the actual tutorial, which I try to edit as little as possible. And if I make a mistake, I try to leave it in there so that you can see, places where if you make a mistake, how you, get around it, how you fix balloons if they pop and things like that. So I try to leave those in. So the only real editing is the clip in the beginning, 10-second goofy thing. And another reason for that is that you watch the video for 5 seconds to see what you're going to make. And even if you know how to make it, you might still watch for 20 more seconds just to see what random thing is going to be in the video. That way, Google might pay me for you watching it.
Bonus. And if you don't mind me asking, is there kind of any income involved when it comes to making YouTube videos?
It's very small because I really don't advertise on them too much because you get like Floyd and other artists that their target's a lot of the intro level balloon artists that come in and they want to learn how to make a sword and dog, or they're a hobby twister and they want to learn how to do it. You have to go there. With my channel, I try to preserve our community where if you're just starting out, my videos are going to be a little hard to watch. I want my videos for balloon artists by a balloon artist where it's more of a jam to skill share. And if you can't follow my YouTube tutorials, it means that you might need to take a step back, buy a DVD, or watch some slower designs, and then you can start being able to follow along with me. My videos are for someone that knows how to do balloons, but they want to get better and they want to have some patter. And I know I get bored out of my mind watching a really slow tutorial. So I don't bother advertising too much because it's not really for the income why I do it. So I don't care too much if that's not my market. I'd rather just get the people that are really going to enjoy it. I want them to see it.
Exactly. I got to say, what I really like, or one of the things I really like about your videos, is the fact that you are not afraid just to do it at speed. And it's also really impressive too, because at one point I was watching a video recently and I thought, hang on, what, is this being sped up? I'm like, no, he's just fantastic. But it's good, it's encouraging because if we're always working alone, which often happens as a balloon artist, you don't get to see what your potential can be. And so when you do go online and you're hoping to get better at skills and you see someone pull off a design really quickly, you think, oh, wow, like that's something I can actually work towards. So though it may stop newer twisters coming to watch the videos, I actually appreciate that you're not minding about that and that you're keeping your videos at a certain level to keep people that know how to twist already interested. I think it's a really good idea.
Quite a few hateful comments on that.
Oh, really? I'm sorry to hear about that.
I get lots of comments where people get really frustrated at the speed, like, it's a tutorial, not an entertainment. You need to slow down. And it's like, actually, this is my theme. This is the way I do it. If you don't like my channel, don't watch it. Like, I want to help you. And if that's your level, like, I have the DVD out you can buy. And that's what my response whenever I get that's too slow. I always just kind of put a selfless plug in saying, hey, buy my DVD. It goes extremely slow and then picks up throughout the course. But if you're watching a free video on YouTube, this is for other balloon artists to accelerate and to work on pattern and everything. And I explain that to them. But I get lots of comments where people complain about the speed. But I stick to my original vision on it and I keep with it. And thank you for saying that you appreciate it because it means a lot to me.
Oh, no, of course. I totally mean it. And I've also got a team of entertainers and they always show me what they're working on. And like, oh, I checked out this Cody Williams video and I checked out that. And so you're really doing a lot for the industry. And I guess you don't always see all of the positive things that go on. But I can personally say that from the balloon artists I know, people are always talking about, oh, this is the Cody Williams design I got. Or, if you want to, you should grab this DVD. So you're actually affecting quite a lot of people. So haters going to hate, if I'm allowed to say that. Haters are going to hate. So, but there's plenty of people that are supporting you.
Glad you're saying it.
That's cool. How do you decide what video you're going to put on next? Do you have a system or is it just like what you feel like doing, or how does it go?
It really varies. Ironically, the last series I did, the Inside Out movie that came out, I did a series on how to do all the characters. I did that because I built the studio. I had some time off I can actually film, and it's pretty rare for me to have an afternoon where I can set everything up and film. It's the only reason that I'm so lazy about it is just that don't always have time to set the studio up, and I want my videos to have a little bit higher quality than my original, ones in my bedroom in my underwear. So, okay, never that bad, but still. And so recently for that one, I just built a studio and I realized I have no clue what I'm going to make. And so I looked back at my last, a couple shifts, like what did I make the last, restaurant I did, what the kids really want right now. And I realized that this movie by Pixar had just came out days ago. And I thought, oh, you know what? I don't think anyone's doing this yet on YouTube. I'll just figure these out. And I sat there and had like a little balloon jam by myself, and I figured out one by one all the characters. And then I uploaded them. So I figured all those guys out pretty much on the spot and then filmed how to do it. Other than that, if I come up with a good design on the restaurant, because lots of my stuff comes on restaurants, where if it's slow and a kid asks for something I haven't tried yet, I'm going to give it a try and see how it comes out. If it comes out really good, I might take a picture, or later I'll write it in a note on my phone saying, hey, tutorial idea, do this. And so occasionally I take notes on my phone. That helps me out a lot. And if I forget to do that, I will just make up a design and then film it.
Mm. Well, it seems to be working well. Do you have any ideas in the back of your mind of what you might want to be filming next? Or
the next thing I'm working on is a DVD project. I've been waiting till the school year where I have a little more time. So I'm going to do the Flare DVD that I've been wanting to do forever. The very first DVD I did, Quick Links, was just a test to see if I would be able to film and edit and produce a DVD. And I just did something, on the fly, like just to test out the waters. And then my goal was to eventually lead up to the Flare DVD, and which is a DVD based on just tricks and things like that. The Zero to Pro DVD after that was a training DVD for people that I work with, and I wasn't going to sell it. That wasn't my plan, but I ended up wanting to propose to my girlfriend and thought I should just sell a DVD privately to make the funds for that, and then I can buy the ring and do that. So that DVD was sold to buy an engagement ring.
oh, wow.
But yeah, I don't think anyone would do that one. That was one of the ones I wasn't really letting everyone know right away. Like, yeah, this is actually a really selfish reason I'm selling it. I want to propose to someone. But yeah, so with the next DVD that was kind of a middle milestone there is I want to work on that Flare DVD, and it's going to be an hour or two long, and you're not going to learn a single balloon in it. It's going to be just how to pop a balloon, how to tie knots one-handed, tricks with balloons, just pattern. It's going to be a full DVD on how to perform with balloons.
Wow.
And you won't learn a single shape. And that's a class I'm doing in Hamburg, Germany in November. They're having a balloon jam, and the class I'm teaching there is the Flare DVD, but in person. And I told them, they asked what balloons to provide. I said, just some 260s, any color, doesn't matter. They're like, what are you making? Nothing. We're just going to pop them. So a big part of performing isn't just making the design, but looking cool while you do it. And the essence I want, to do, or I want artists that work with me, I want them to do is I want a child basically to see a tornado in front of them, and the end result is a penguin. Like they just see balloons flying in the air, they're popping, you're tying them really fast, you're tying it in one hand while juggling in another hand, and just lots of cool things going on. And then when the show's over, there's this cute little penguin or poodle or dog or superhero, and wow, this is my take-home thing after I just saw this guy make this, throwing it around.
Oh,
and so the DVD is going to teach how to do that.
Cody, if our listeners could see my face right now, I'm kind of smiling from ear to ear because you've taken me by surprise here. I'm really excited by this project. This is the stuff that you don't learn, this is the stuff that makes the difference. So yeah, I'm really excited now. So you can please put down a order for me.
That's one of the things I've been worrying about. Oh, of course. One of the things I've been worrying about is I've been putting off this project for almost a year now. I've just been putting it off because there's other things have come up, and I've been worried that someone else is going to do it because to me it makes sense. That's what an artist should be working for and working toward. So I've been kind of stressing out that I get it done in time before someone beats me to the punch. But same with that Zero to Pro project I did. When I finally put it out, it was the balloon school style of DVD where it is someone that's never touched a balloon in their life can learn it from scratch. And I couldn't find DVD on that either, so that's why I went with that one too.
Well, you seem to be going along the right way. So I'm really excited about your new project, and I'm sure you'll have heaps of followers for that. And that's what I really noticed, even on your Zero to Pro DVD, which I've got a copy, guys. It's really good. Though, Cody, you're teaching the basics, you're not failing to teach the patter at the same time, because that's part of learning how to be a balloon artist, is learning how to not only tie the knots and make the shapes, but learning what you can say while you're making the balloon, or what little trick you can do to make what you're doing even more entertaining. So that's what I really like about your style. So I'd never thought that someone would make a DVD just on that, but Yeah, I know I keep repeating myself, but honestly, I'm very excited. So thank you in advance.
It's also overwhelming to make that as a full DVD. It's one of the things I've been kind of worrying about is how to make a full DVD on just that, but I didn't realize there's actually enough material to do it fairly easily, I hope. But one thing with the Zero to Pro that I forgot to mention as you were talking about pattern is it was really focused. I felt I tried to focus on technique because even if you learn the designs and you try to learn to be fast as a balloon artist, you will never be able to get truly fast unless you work on your technique and you practice really slow and you figure out the shortest route and the least hand movements you can. And in that DVD, I tried showing like my fingers and my hands, what I was doing, so that you could recreate all the motions so that once you get it down, you'll be super fast. Because to me, technique is just as important as the finished product.
Absolutely. It's a really, really good building block system that you've made, going through very, very much step by step from the beginning and not failing to miss anything, which is really excellent for new twisters. So if any new twisters are out there or anyone's considering learning, we'll provide a link in the show notes of this podcast if you're interested in finding out where you might be able to pick up that DVD from. I highly recommend it personally. Hey, Cody, I thought I might just ask you, we are coming towards the end of our podcast, sadly, but I'd love to find out, I guess, a bit more about what you do when you are working as a balloon entertainer. Do you do any particular jobs more so, or do you prefer more kinds of work? We were talking parties, restaurants, corporate gigs. What kind of thing do you find yourself doing?
The ones that pay me.
Good
Sorry.
answer.
I learned a long time ago to pretty much never turn down a gig because, well, I mean, obviously some you want to turn down, too many kids, not enough timeline, but things that are outside of my comfort zone, I'll always take. If my only reason for saying no is it's outside of my comfort zone, I force myself to take it so I can learn. Like my first library show was the most intimidating thing ever because I'd never done one. I was going to be on stage, not working with the kids, and I had to develop something for that. So, I mean, you basically take all of them. The most common thing I do is probably restaurants and then the private birthday parties because I like the interpersonal communication. I like being one-on-one with my audience. I'm not the biggest fan of being on a stage because, I mean, you can get more people at once, but it's less magical to the individual. Like if you go to Sally's birthday party and you're there and you're like her friend that came to make balloons for her and her friends, it means a lot to them. And that's something you kind of take away from that. So like those are probably my favorite is the 10 to 15 kids birthday party. And that's probably one of my favorite of all because you become a friend of the family for an hour and then you leave.
Yeah, exactly. It's those moments that we get to take part in of someone's special day. So yeah, it's really quite special. And another thing also, as we are, again, we're coming towards the end, and I just wanted to ask you if you may have any particular golden nuggets of advice for any balloon artists or any entertainers out there. Is there anything that you've learned along the way that you think might help someone in their act or as an entertainer?
Yeah, there's so many different categories to give advice on. One thing I'm asked a lot is the speed thing, and that one, my biggest advice is to practice slow to learn fast. So for speed as a twister, because that's how you really get product out. If you're working a line scenario, you want to get fast. And the best thing to do is when you're practicing at home, move your hands as slow as you can while finishing your product as fast as you can. That way you learn the best, fastest technique, and that's how you get fast as a balloon artist. And then later when you want to actually go fast, you take those techniques you've mastered, and then you move your hands faster. And that's how you get to be a quick balloon artist, is you practice your slow technique and you develop muscle memory. Now as for advice on getting work, which is a big one I get a lot, my main income comes from restaurants. In America, we have tipping, so that makes it a lot easier. In other countries where you don't tip balloon artists, you don't tip servers, it's a little tougher to break that market, and you have to really focus on your well-paid hourly events, fairs, parties. The important thing I learned early on was have a good business card. I used to have this really boring, bland, Cody Williams, balloon guy, unicyclist, cell phone, and it was boring. My card now is me balancing on a unicycle with a palm tree, balancing off my nose, riding one-footed. And it looks really impressive. It almost looks Photoshopped. And it's not. I wish it looked less Photoshopped. And it makes them want to keep the card. So that way it has to be entertaining. As for getting restaurants, I always come in, I offer them a free day. I usually aim for corporate restaurants, not mom and pops, because I would rather be in their marketing budget, and I'd rather go with vendor services because they always pay their bills. That's where I've had some mom and pop stores. And it's funny because you ask most balloon artists, they tell you to go for the mom and pop shops, but I always want a chain because they always pay.
Fair point.
But I always give them a free day, and I try to come back and have them pay for me to be back there again. And I give out a business card to every single person that I ever give a balloon to. Whether they want it or not, they get it. And I do a magic trick with business cards. I have one simple palming magic trick where, it's blank on both sides, you print it, you make it disappear, and it's a very bland trick, but it's a trick, and it's why I have the card in my hand, so now I can give it to you. So exposure is really important, but also don't do a bunch of exposure-only work, because once you start working too much for free, you'll never be able to break that cycle. And people need to realize what they're doing has value and what it's worth.
Speaking of value, you've given us so much value today, and thank you for sharing and being on the podcast. And best of luck for your new DVD. As you can tell, I'm extremely excited to find out what's in store. And yeah, big, huge thank you, Cody. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the Bling Bling Jam.
Of course. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate reaching out to me and having me here.
All right, thanks, Cody.